Yesterday I spoke on various levels of sex energy. Topics like these, which have been considered as taboos, people, masters, and so-called religious people avoid topics like these. It is quite natural. A person who has not evolved out of this, the sex energy, there has been no transmutation of this energy, will always avoid speaking on this topic. And this video has attracted the listenership tremendously because everyone is interested in knowing about it more. Knowing about it in such a way that transformation happens. This is at the core of every seeker, every individual. When this talk took place yesterday, I received a question from Lars. The question reads, in today's talk you mentioned that the sex is the root, and anger, jealousy, hatred, violence, ego and so on are the branches that will will start dying once you go beyond sex. Indeed, anger, jealousy, hatred, violence, ego, inferiority complex, superiority complex, all these are the offshoots of sex when there is lack of understanding, there is lack of transformation, there is lack of transcendence. Does this mean that if lust dies, then anger, jealousy, hatred, violence, ego disappears? This will be very difficult for you to understand at this level when the transcendence has not happened. Something that you have not attained, it becomes very difficult to accept it. But indeed it happens like this. The moment you go beyond, or this energy is transmuted, it is like this. The water, if there is a leakage in the bottle and you put it in the fridge, in the freezer the water will continue to drip. The moment it becomes ice, it freezes. Then its dripping stops. But this is conditional. The temperature is so cold that the ice does not melt. But the moment there is a change in the temperature, the water that has been frozen because of the heat will start melting and dripping, moving downwards. But then when it goes on the heat, extreme heat, the process is reversed, and then the downward movement disappears and it starts forming steam. Its direction is changed. If you take a rose plant during the winter season, just beginning of the winter season, that is in the autumn, the tree unwanted branches are pruned, the soil is prepared, it is fertilized for the new foliage, new flowers to bloom. The tree gets nourished. The branches that were getting older are pruned. Its lifespan increases. This is important in the gardening of rose plants. So when you want a tree to disappear, you have to cut the roots off. The moment roots are cut off, the nourishment is not there. Where does the tree, its branches, its foliage gets the nourishment from? The nourishment comes from the roots. I have heard about the Chinese leader Mao Zedong. When he was a child, his father had passed away. He was living with his mother. Mother was very fond of gardening. She had beautiful garden with lovely flowers blossom, and people from all around would visit her garden and admire the beauty. Once it happened, his mother fell sick and she could not take care of the garden. trees, the plants were not watered. So the mother was worried. Seeing her worried, Mao Zedong said, "Mother, you don't worry, I will take care of the plants just as you take care of me." So he started going to the garden and taking care of the plants. But how will a 5-year-old child take care of the plants? He started wiping out each leaves. He started talking to them in a loving manner. And this was the way that he was taking care of the plants. But the plants started withering away, the leaves started drying. He could not understand why, in spite of his lovingness and care, the plants are drying. And the process continues. Some of the plants dry. When his mother got better, she came to the garden. She was shocked to see the condition of the plants in the garden. Mao said, "Mother, I have taken care of these plants lovingly, but yet still the plants have not blossomed as they would when you were taking care of." So the mother asked, "How did you take care of the plants?" The innocent Mao told her the process, how he was taking care of the plants. The mother said, "The life of the plant lies in its roots. If you want to take care of the plants, you have to nourish the plants via its roots. And the moment the nourishment does not reach to the roots, the branches, the leaves starts drying. The nourishment has to be given through the roots. Sex is the roots of all that becomes various emotions: anger, jealousy, hatred, violence, etc. And ego is the mother of all that. So when the sex disappears, sex means, you have to understand this word in the broader perspective. Sex means desire. Desire at the level of the body, desire at the level of emotions. It is known as, in Hindi, Kam Vasana. Desires. The moment the desires remain unfulfilled, or there is a fear of losing something, anger comes in. The moment a husband or a man or a woman realizes the fear of losing her spouse, anger comes in. Anger is the extreme state, but in the beginning jealousy comes in. When the movement of this energy is not in the right direction, then the hatred tends to come towards the other. So when the root is not being nourished, or root is not there functioning, then the nourishment to the anger, jealousy, hatred, violence, ego will not be there, and these will start disappearing on its own. In the West, we have now said that there is anger management. It is not so. And probably you forget, you read something and it does not sink into you. In the book meditation, the ultimate in healing, there were 2 short meditations on anger. There something was discussed about, explained about the nature of anger. Now, there is an important part of this question. What about a small child who has no feeling of lust in that young age, but still has anger, jealousy, ego, and so on? Please specify how a tree can have branches when it has no roots, like in a small child that has no lust. Or when you say sex is the root, do you mean something else than lust? Now, this has to be understood little intelligently. When there is a birthday celebration, balloons are hanged. You go to the market, you buy a pack of balloons, but these balloons are not inflated. You have to inflate these balloons. You buy a balloon pump, and somebody is put responsible to blow the balloons, and then these balloons are hanged as part of the decor. When you buy a balloon pack which has certain number of balloons, but none of these are inflated, does this mean that these balloons do not have the capacity to be blown, or they cannot be blown, or they cannot be inflated? Although they exist in unflated form, that is how you get in the market. You will not get the inflated balloons from the party shop to bring it and put it onto the decor. You have to buy the balloon in an uninflated form, and then you have to inflate each one of them. And when the party celebration is going on, there is an important aspect of the celebration that you burst these balloons. And how do you burst this balloon? You take a needle or a straight pin and prick the balloon and it bursts. This we understand. A child is like an uninflated balloon. But how the child can be an uninflated balloon? And what is this balloon? The ego is the balloon. When a child is born, he is like a pack of balloons that are not inflated as yet. And why they are not inflated? Because the child is in a state of unconsciousness. His cognition is not developed as yet. The balloon pack is still seen. The process of inflating has not yet started. So what happens? It is because of the past lives and the life of unconsciousness that the child is like a new pack of balloon which has yet to begin the process of inflating the balloons. The child is a single balloon which is not inflated as yet. The ego in the child is in that form, uninflated balloon. Then, who inflates the balloon? As the child interacts in the society, the family, the upbringing, the society, the religious organizations, the churches, the temples, all these are the balloon pumps that inflate the child. And as the child grows, the ego gets the balloon of the ego gets inflated, and the process continues. The roots are forming, the new roots are forming. The child is like a new plant that you have just bought from the nursery. It has a single stem. It has now come out of the seed form. That is how you buy these plants from the nursery. The seed has just sprouted. It may have a single root, not the complex roots as yet. The root has not become complex as yet. As the tree grows, its roots become complex and starts spreading far and wide. When the tree is old, its roots have spread far and wide. In my hometown, there was a tree. Its roots were spread in almost 2-mile radius. But because this tree was very old, it is said that this tree was over 1,000 years old. But the tree which has it is not called tree as yet, it is called a plant. You buy from the nursery a plant. The seeds are planted, and as the seed begins to germinate, it is only the young plant that it can be transplanted. You cannot cut a big tree and transplant it unless you know the procedure. In United States, they grow the plants in the nursery which are planted along the streets. These plants like palm and all those decorative plants are allowed to grow in the nursery as much as 4 feet tall, and then they are through a particular process. The people know what is the radius of its roots, what is the depth of its roots, and then through these scientific methods, the plant is dug along with its roots to that extent. Then the plant is prepared, the soil is prepared, a hole is made in the place where this plant is to be planted for decade, and this tree is planted. While I was visiting a particular locality in Florida, I saw this process, an area where one of our relatives had bought a house. It was still under development. I saw this process as an inquisitiveness in the process of spiritual development. I stopped and inquired the entire process, how these such a grown-up plants which are almost like a tree, the roots is very voluminous, how these plants could be transplanted in the normal way. They are not. They cannot grow. They cannot survive. If a plant is to be transplanted, it has to be in a very young stage. But these plants are growing. Then I was told of the entire process, how these plants are specifically developed in the nursery, and then the whole tree, the big plant, 4 feet, 5 feet of palm trees are removed because the roots of these plants are not complex. They spread in a particular way. The radius is not very wide. It does not spread to large area, and that is also manipulated, and then these plants are transplanted. But when you go and buy a flower plant or a herb plant, You have to buy it in a very early stages when the stem is a single stemmed and the roots are very tender. Then when you plant it and you take care of it through the nourishment, and it is planted on well nourished bed, then the plant continues to grow with new foliage. A child is like that plant, which has now come out of the nursery. Its roots are single rooted. They are not yet started growing. It is just in the process that with the nourishment, the roots will grow, and as the roots grow, the branches, new leaves will start growing. A child is like that. It has now come. It has the very capacity, the seed has the very tendency for growth, for the roots to grow, and the tree grows only when the roots grow. The leaves, the stems, the branches grow only when the roots grow. As the tree gets settled in the place where it is planted, the roots catch hold of the soil, the nourishment begins, and then the plant continues to grow, and you watch and you enjoy the plant. You enjoy watching the child, how it grows. But in the process of growth, the nourishment comes for the child's roots from the society, the parents, the religious organizations, your education system, all that continue to inflate the balloon of the child that was uninflated, the balloon of ego that was uninflated. It continues to grow. And the moment you come out of the university, you are adorned with degrees, your balloon of ego attains a new dimension. If you won any laurels in the college, in the university, the balloon attains a new dimension. At a very young age, you get a very highly prestigious job, another thing happens. So the whole upbringing of the society and all that are the ways and means in which a child grows, the balloon of ego continues to grow. You remember when the process of a spiritual development begins, when the party is at its peak, everyone is enjoying the party, gaiety and celebration is going on. People take the straight pins and start pricking the balloons so that they start bursting, and there is a noise of bursting of the balloons. This is also a part of the celebration. So meditation is the straight pin that pricks the balloon of the ego. It starts bursting, and the moment it starts bursting, slowly and slowly the process and another journey begins. So it is erroneous to say that the child does not have the feeling of lust. It is still in the seed form, and it is in the seed form because of the past lives. You have not attained to awareness in your life, and you leave the world in that state of unconsciousness. You are born with that. When somebody dies, the body dies, but the mind continues to live on. The emotions, the feelings, and all that is the accumulation of the mind, the thoughts lives on. You go to sleep, the body is at rest, but mind is not. then whatever you have seen during the daytime and it is recorded, today, yesterday, day before, the last month, may appear to you in the form of dreams. So sometimes in the dreams you envision certain things which you cannot relate when did you, and you consider it something different. Unless there comes awareness, the past continues to live on. The past memories, and those memories continue to create a new life. This is the wheel of time. The mind lives on. The emotions, the thought, mind is some total of thoughts, emotions, feelings and all that. And anger is a thought, jealousy is a thought, hatred is a thought, violence is a thought, ego is a thought. Ego is the accumulation of all that. Ego is the storehouse. That's the monastery that houses all these in embodied form. Ego houses anger, jealousy, hatred, violence, superiority complex, inferiority complex. It can be said ego is the monastery where all these monks of anger, jealousy, hatred, violence, superiority complex, inferiority complex live and are nourished and nurtured. Ego and ignorance go together. Ego and ignorance go together. This was one of the lines that was composed on Bhagavad Gita, the melody of the bee. It was composed in 1990 in the handwritten script, and it is not been digitized as yet. Basically, it is the verses of the sutras of Bhagavad Gita have been translated into English form. I will just read the two passages which you will understand. The first sutra, which is spoken by the blind king, Dhritarashtra, thus guided by the impending doom of destruction that loomed over the mental horizon of the blind king. Fear of destruction made the king restless. Sleeplessly he wandered in the dark meadows of his ignorance. Sleeplessly he wandered in the dark meadows of his ignorance, with all the windows of the mind shut. Light of truth could penetrate not. With all the windows of the mind shut, light of truth could penetrate not. He dwelled in his own self-created hell. No ray of hope was in the offing. His morbid consciousness thus agitated spoke. O Sanjay, spoke the king, explain to me every detail of this eternal war. What did the sons of Pandu, symbolizing higher ideals, divine forces, and also my sons, symbolizing lower ideals, undivine forces too, all arrayed in the holy battlefield and desirous to fight? Indeed, I am anxious to know all the proceedings of this war as it unfolds many dimensions. Then in the following sutras, Sanjay begins to give the description of his own army. Sanjay thus began his description of the battlefield. Listen to me attentively, O king. Listen to me attentively, O king. I shall now narrate to you the details as I witnessed through my celestial vision. I shall now narrate to you the details as I witnessed through my celestial vision, having seen the army of Pandavas thus arrayed. Prince Duryodhana's mind filled with fear. Prince Duryodhana's mind filled with fear. Fear is the ornament of ego. Prince Duryodhana's mind is filled with fear. Fear is the outcome of ignorance. Fear is the outcome of negation of truth. And ignorance is the ornament of ego. Fear is the outcome of ignorance, and ignorance is the ornament of ego. Without ignorance, ego ceases to exist. And without ego, ignorance has no value, no use. Fear is the outcome of ignorance, and ignorance is the ornament of ego. Without ignorance, ego ceases to exist, and without ego, ignorance has no value, no use. Or when light absolute descends, ignorance disappears into oblivion, and thus vanishes the ego. Thereafter what remains is the light of truth, the ultimate. But in the absence, despondency and agitation breeds in human mind. But in the absence, despondency and agitation breeds in human mind the chief of negativities that thus express his doubts about his own strength. This is how these two are related. A child is in that capsule form which has yet to begin his journey. You may not see it in that form. When you buy a plant, you buy a white rose or a yellow rose, you have to depend on the person in the nursery to tell you that yes, this is a yellow rose. But there is no other way to know that this is a yellow rose or a pink rose or red rose plant. You have to wait for this plant to grow and the flower to appear, then you realize that this is a yellow rose. When the technician in the nursery grafts a red rose on a plant, so he does not graft only on one plant, a series of plants that are put in one place, and he knows that this row has been grafted with red roses, the next is converted into yellow rose, and so on and so forth. And accordingly he is given, you have to rely on the nursery person to tell you, yes, it is a yellow rose. Sometimes mistakes may happen. So child is that tree, is that plant that is nascent. It has to begin its process of growth. It is like a balloon that has been taken out from the pack, that has recently bought from the market for the occasion. For the journey of the balloon to continue, it has to be removed from the pack. Individually it will be blown, then put it into a string together and used for decoration. All that we see into the world, the upbringing of the child is growing. The child develops its affinity first with the mother, and through the mother it comes to know the rest of the world. The cognition comes of the rest of the world, that this is my brother, sister, father, so on and so forth. Then he goes to the school. He tries to identify himself with other students, the people of the other community, that this is Christian child, this is the Muslim child, this child belongs to another denomination. And if you are living in a multicultural and multiracial society, then you have to have a separate identity that you are of an Indian origin, someone else is of an African origin or a Chinese origin, so on and so forth. The balloon continues to grow, and as the balloon grows, all these things come. So it is erroneous to say that the child is in a young age. The balloon in a pack is in a very young age. It has now come from the factory, and from the factory it has been sent to the retail outlet from where you had bought it. You cannot go directly to the manufacturer to buy the balloon pack that you require for your party. You buy it as a pack, and then the balloons are sold in individual colors and shapes. Sometimes some packs you get assorted colors and assorted designs. Some balloons are written with happy birthday and many other things. So all these things you will see in the balloon shop. This is how the child grows. Many things are written on it. Male, female, black and white, tall and short. All these things. This is how the branches grow in the tree. It is the upbringing that allows the branches to grow on the tree. Please specify the connection between sex and the branches. Still you need to know the connection. You have to understand the analogy, and through that you can understand. The mind lives on when a person dies. It is only when someone attains to enlightenment and his life has been full of light, with no darkness around. When such a person leaves the world, the mind disappears also. And with the mind disappearing, the desires disappear. The longings disappear. This is why it is called Buddha's death is not considered as death, it is called Nirvana. And Buddha's death is considered as Mahaparinirvana. Nirvana is that state when living in the body, through the maturity, through the understanding, through the flowering of meditation, you attain to the state of Nirvana. When consciously you die to all those things. Consciously, with awareness, your anger disappears, violence disappears, jealousy disappears, hatred disappears. Then when all these things disappear, if you have to use anger, you use it consciously. When mother uses the anger to a child who is making a mistake, to correct the child, mother uses anger as a tool, then it is not the ordinary anger, it is the anger of awareness. The man of awareness can use anger as a tool, but an unconscious person is used by anger and all these things. This is how these do. By the way, this is the question from last Jesse. I have to still speak something on anger and all these other aspects. How to overcome the anger. Because this is going to be the next question. Put your energy into creativity. The energy that is being converted into anger, jealousy, hatred, violence, put it into creativity. And meditation is the only way to convert the energy that can assume any form, destructive or creative. Put it into the creativity. Forget about anger as a problem, ignore it. Channelize your energy towards more creativity. Pour yourself into something that you love, rather than making anger your problem. Let creativity be your object of meditation. Shift from anger to creativity and immediately you will see a great challenge arising, a great change coming into you. And tomorrow the same thing will not be like excuses for being angry, because now energy is moving, is being channelized, is being sublimated, is enjoying itself, its dance. Who cares for the small things like anger? It becomes creativity. If this question has come otherwise to any person, it would may create an anger that I have spoken all this. And this man again puts a question. No, that energy is channelized. A Buddha channelized every single opportunity and to channelize that energy into creativity. It is because of this question this talk has happened. It is not that answers to this question is written somewhere else. It is the intelligence, it is the awareness of Buddha that responds to the question. Only this much on these questions relating to the levels of energy, the levels of sex energy, to bring a greater understanding in the whole function. This talk is meant, and I will continue to speak on different aspects of jealousy and anger more. Only this much for this morning on these questions from Lars Jensen.